I want to ponder something with you now, and that's the question of who can fix our government. We'll talk about it next on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday Americans.
Well, hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here once again with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution and teach the rising generation to be free. Glad you could join me today. Today, I want to ponder something, and it's this question. I get similar questions all the time. I see it on Facebook, posts, blogs, all over the place. It really comes down to who can fix our government. See, most people agree, at least a lot of people in the groups I'm involved with, that there's problems with the government. Now, we may disagree with what those problems are, but what I find interesting is most people seem to be looking to the government to fix itself, which to me is, well, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. See, we think if we get the right president, or if we get the right congressman, or if we get the right Supreme Court justice, magically the government will restrain itself, go back into its box, go back within its enumerated powers, and life will be great. But that doesn't make sense. To me, that's irrational. Now, the problem is we forget that most of the people, well, there are 536 people in the federal government that are elected directly by we the people, well, directly and indirectly by we the people. And they work for us. They're the ones with the power. They're the ones that can write legislation. They're the ones that execute the legislation. And we don't hold them accountable. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not, I'm not saying we need we're going to have a quick fix to all of our problems. But if you stop and think about it, whether you support a balanced budget amendment or a convention of the states, or you promote one group over another in power in Congress or in the presidency, if we expect the government to fix itself, it's never going to happen. But if we take responsibility for our role in our government, the fact that ultimately we choose the people who serve in Congress, both the House and the Senate now, that we indirectly choose who the president is, which is actually a lot less important. If we took that choice more seriously, if we looked at it not simply as, can my team win? Or will this person promise to give me goodies or to protect my job? Or to keep other people out or lower taxes or whatever. If we looked at it and said, their job is to protect our rights. Their job is to, among other things, hold the federal government in check within its enumerated powers. If we took some time and said, are you actually doing that job? And if not, why should I hire you to do it anymore? See, it's this idea that we, the people, created this government. Therefore, we, the people, are responsible for it. I know it's easy to say, well, it's Washington's fault or it's their fault, and to push things the other way. But ultimately, to quote Teddy Roosevelt, the buck stops here. Ultimately, we choose who goes to Washington. We choose who goes to our state house. If our states aren't protecting our rights from the federal government, it's because the people we hired to do it aren't doing it. And if they're not doing it, and we keep hiring them, well, whose fault is it? See, I think we have to get this idea in our head that we are responsible for our government. It was, I believe it was Grover Cleveland at the centennial of this country who said, if in another 100 years Congress is lazy and corrupt, it'll be because we allow them to be lazy and corrupt. If they are good, it's because we demand that they be good. We, the people. It's time we, the people, start demanding our elected representatives act better, or we find a better class of elected representative. I talk about that a lot, but it's this general idea that if we're looking for someone else to fix our government, I doubt it's going to happen. I think we're going to continue to slide down, more and more power being consumed by Washington, more and more rights being infringed upon, and more political infighting between the two major parties. No, if we want a government that is limited in its scope, that is enumerated in its powers, then we have to take responsibility for the fact that we haven't demanded it be done, and we need to start demanding it. Now, it's going to take a while. It took 100 years for the progressives and others to turn the federal government loose to the Leviathan it has become. It'll probably take us another 100 years to put it back in its box. But it won't happen unless we try, and nothing will happen until we start. So ponder that. Can you help fix the government? You don't have to do it on your own. Can you fix a little piece of government? Can you go to your state representatives and say, your job is to protect my rights from the federal government? Are you doing that? And if not, I'm going to find somebody who will. Can we teach our local elected officials that their job is to protect our rights, and if they won't do the job, we won't vote for them. We won't hire them anymore. See, most state representatives start off as local representatives of some form, city or county. And many of the people who end up going to Washington first start out in state government. So if we can start training the next couple of generations of political class, they shouldn't be a class, but they are. The next couple of generations of politicians to think more along the lines of the Constitution, to fear the reprisal of being unconstitutional, fear what their representatives will do. Maybe we can slowly change this nation to something a bit more like what our founding fathers created for us, a bit more like what we inherited from our forefathers, what we inherited from our parents and our grandparents, and maybe a little nicer that we can leave to our children and to our grandchildren. But if we continue this finger pointing that it's always somebody else's fault, Einstein had a saying, it's insanity to do the same thing over and over again expecting a different result. We've tried blaming the government. We've tried putting the government in charge of itself, and it hasn't worked. It's time for us to try something different. It's time for us to take control, to exercise our authority of voting for our representatives seriously. Not base it on goodies, but base it on the Constitution. So I hope you ponder this. I hope you'll head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com. Find out more what's going on. Maybe support the work that we're doing here. Most of all, I hope you'll come back and I can see you the next time on the Constitution Study. Have a great day.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday America.